If you're a shopaholic like me, then you understand that fashion comes with a price. Today, I'm going to be shedding some light on the price tag that we don't usually get to see. Fast fashion, in particular, is responsible for a multitude of environmental damages, including water pollution, air pollution, and human rights abuses. Alden Wicker, a sustainable fashion expert, in her 2016 article for Newsweek titled Fast Fashion is Creating an Environmental Crisis, says when natural fibers like cotton, linen, and silk, or semi synthetic fibers created from plant based cellulose like rayon, tinsel, or modal, are buried in a landfill, in a sense, they act like food waste, producing a potent greenhouse gas named methane as they degrade. Natural fibers go through a lot of unnatural processes on the way to becoming clothing. They've been bleached, dyed, printed on, and skewered in chemical baths. These chemicals leach from the textiles in improperly sealed landfills into groundwater, and burning these items in incinerators can cause toxins to go up into the air. I've been researching this topic a lot recently because I am a frequent fashion consumer and I do care a lot about my carbon footprint and how the hobbies that I partake in affect my carbon footprint. Fashion is destroying our planet through overwater consumption, widespread chemical pollution, and violations of human rights. Today, I'm going to be explaining to you how the fast fashion industry affects our water, our air, and our human rights. Before I can explain to you the effects of our human rights, I have to, or our environment in general, I have to explain to you what fast fashion is. So, fast fashion started around the 1970s when the producers or manufacturers that were out in the States moved their production process to East Asian countries where production prices were lower, cost of labor was lower, and they had fewer government regulation. Dylan Keller, a scholar from San Francisco University, in an article for the Britannica called Fast Fashion, writes it is a term used to describe rapid production of inexpensive, low quality clothing that often mimics popular styles of big fashion labels, big brand names, and independent designers. By offering endless trends at cheap prices, fast fashion brands such as Shein, Zara, and H&M are encouraging consumers to continually buy more clothing. Now that I've explained to you what fast fashion is, I can get into how it affects our environment. The textile industry consumes about 93 billion cubic meters of water per day. And during the whole production process, it's making pollution with that water. Chrissy Namaki, the leader of the fashion slash textile future research group, in her 2020 article for the are called the environmental price of fashion, says the fashion industry impacts local water supply by producing wastewater, as some chemicals used during manufacturing are toxic. Improperly treated water that enters local groundwater might degrade the entire ecosystem. In Cambodia, for example, the fashion industry, which is responsible for about 88% of all industry manufacturing as of 2008, has caused 60% of water pollution and 34% of chemical pollution. But water pollution isn't the only type of pollution that fast fashion causes. It also causes air pollution. Chemicals that are used during the textile dyeing process do not degrade in natural atmospheres, and if they are treated or if they are dealt with incorrectly after their process, then they could harm living organisms and ecosystems. Vivian Christine Dorado Pinto, in a 2025 entry for the encyclopedia called Health Impacts of Fast Fashion, exploring toxic chemicals in clothing and fabric, says toxic chemicals permeate every stage of fabric production, in the moment of a cotton hits the ground to the moment a final touches are put on a garment. Chemicals do not disappear after production, they remain embedded in the fabrics, posing an ongoing risk to humans. Now, Now that we learned about the environmental effects of fast fashion, we can also learn about how it affects us as humans. Rachel Brick and Erica Hasley, scholars from Brown University, wrote in a 2018 article called "The Global Environmental Justice Fast Fashion." It says occupational and safety standards in these low and middle income countries are often not enforced due to poor political infrastructure and organizational management. This results in a myriad of occupational hazards. These hazards include poor working conditions, low wages, and often gender based abuse. Today, I went through how fast fashion affects our water supply by contaminating and overconsuming it, how it pollutes our air with chemicals, and how it affects us as humans. Fast fashion continues to grow with no regulation, and consumers need to educate themselves on what they're buying and how it affects them.